And we are on live. Welcome to Couples Academy Live. My name is Hassani.
And I'm Danielle.
And we are Couples Academy. And we're excited because we are in a brand new series. We figured rather than just having different topics, why don't we unpack something, go deep dive into it? And so what we want to talk about is love. We're doing a love series. And oftentimes, so many people have ideas about what love is, what it's not, what it looks like. And based upon your upbringing, based upon previous relationships, you have different ideas and different interpretations, which oftentimes gets people in trouble. And we always say that it's good to have a working operational definition for what it is that you believe, so that you two have a similar perspective, shared value system, a relational code of ethics that works for you as a couple. And you can do that when it comes to love. And so I thought that one of the best ways that we could really unpack this is by digging into scripture, because the Bible in the book of 1 Corinthians talks about what love is. And I think that if we give you a comprehensive understanding, it will begin to make sense. So today we're talking about love is patient. So first, let's just acknowledge some people. Bobby, we see you. Good to see you, Bobby. Sonia, good morning. Missed you yesterday. Well, we're glad you're here. Kathy, good morning, Kathy. We see our people on Instagram Live as well. You know, with Instagram, like we have all these codes, like I don't get names, so it's hard trying to. So Sandy Girl 180, good to see you. Tori B, it's just so hard.
It says hang in there. We're telling more followers to join the video. Thank you over there on Instagram.
But love is patient. What does that mean? Well, by definition, if you look up the word patient, it's the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. That's huge, because in marriage, you will get frustrated with your partner. You will get upset and angry at times, but it's dealing with these situations without having a negative emotional response. How difficult is that?
I think the key word there is capacity. Because
the capacity
to accept, because the deal is this, that, you know, whatever your measure of patience is right now, it doesn't have to stay that way. It's just like faith, you know. You get a little bit of measure of faith and you build that faith up into a lot more of it. And so I think with patience, it's the same way. What is your capacity to be patient today? If you can identify that, then you know you have some work to do, and you can expand that to cover a multitude of, we're not going to call it sins, but issues, problems, and situations and circumstances. I think that all of us started out with maybe a little bit of patience, and we learned our shortness of patience along the way. And with maturity, we start to say, okay, I got to accept a few things here so that we can grow together. Capacity. That was the key word. How much patience do you have right now?
And the fact that you have to develop patience. Like if your marriage is going to work, you're going to realize quickly you're going to go through seasons and challenges and all types of struggles. And you have to be able to deal with some things. If you don't have the capacity to deal with things, you're going to get frustrated. And one thing I love about the Bible in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, when it unpacks love, it talks more about what love does, not what love is. Think about it. Love is patient. Love is kind. All these things are demonstrations of how you need to show up in your relationship. And so love is a action word. It's something you do. So a lot of times we may feel like we love our partner, but we don't demonstrate it. Like it's no good if it's just a feeling in your heart. And I think that's the critical thing. We have made love a feeling and an emotion. And just because I feel some type of way, it doesn't mean I have to do right. It doesn't mean I have to treat you right. It doesn't mean that I need to show up in the right way. But that's totally false. That may be the world's way.
Right.
But if you're going to make a relationship work, you got to put in that work.
Yeah, I think couples often will say things like, well, they don't show me the way that I need to be shown, because they not everybody agrees they're not demonstrating love. It's how you're demonstrating love. If you're not demonstrating love in a way that your partner can perceive, then what good of it is it? It's like null and void. Not everybody is going to perceive love in the same way. So we have to consciously make sure that we're giving it the way that our partner needs it.
Now, the challenge is when you're dealing with patience, we live in such a fast-paced society, right? Everybody wants what they want now. It's like a microwave generation. We need to have instant gratification. We need internet at warp speed. We need same day delivery. We have a one click, like now, like if you're purchasing something online, nobody wants to spend the time filling everything out. It's one click purchase. Like everything is here, it's immediate. And we have that same type of psyche when it comes to our relationships.
Yeah.
So when we're experiencing some type of trouble or some type of uncomfortable situation, we want to change now. And if it doesn't get changed now, I'm out. And so we're not giving
Lack of patience.
lack of patience. Think about a fruit, right? If you pick a fruit too soon, it's not ripe. You bite into it, it's bitter. But if you wait too long, it's now rotten and there's worms in it and it's brown. So there's timing to everything. The Bible talks about in Ecclesiastes that there's a time to every purpose under the heavens. And there are good times in your life. There are challenging times in your life. And your ability to have patience is what's going to see you through.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think we have a couple comments. Love languages. There it is.
Bobby.
It's important to know that.
That's what it is.
Consciously is the key point. Yes, you have to be conscious in your patience in order to get it through. So here's the question. What do we do about this? If you're a person who struggles being impatient, I know that there have been times in my life where I've been impatient and I want what I want now, just in life, being rushing and always wanting to get it done. Patience is something that you practice. You have to practice it. And maybe the way that you practice patience in the relationship is by practicing patience outside of your relationship. Like looking at some of those smaller things that you get, like for instance, microwave versus boiling a pot of water. Okay. You can choose which way to go. I can throw it in the microwave in 2 minutes, it's done, or I can let that thing simmer. Like, so cooking could be a practical example of how you can begin to develop a level of patience, whatever. And so I just think if you can be successful at the little things in life, it will help you in the larger things. It'll help you in the most important things, particularly your relationship. But one of the keys to really developing patience with your partner is taking the time to get to know your partner.
Right.
Now, really quickly, there are people who have been married for decades that really don't know their partner. I remember it wasn't until we took a course a few years ago that really peeled back the layers and helped me to understand her makeup, her background, the way she thinks, some of the fears or whatever that may be in her that I just wasn't aware of. And so a lot of times you can be very impatient and make all types of judgments and accusations about your partner based upon your lack of knowledge of who that person is. And I think that was a pivotal moment that began to shift things for us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think one person said in there consciously, I think that we have to intentionally be conscious about getting to know our partner so that we are willing to make those adjustments and changes. It takes that, like just hearing the truth about your partner. I mean, you hear it all the time. They're always telling you, in the case of patience, be patient, slow down. I need more time. We talk about this all the time with these different personality styles. So it also takes the willingness to accept that your partner is not you so that you'd be willing to make those adjustments and changes for them. So absolutely.
I think that's a
big pivotal change for us.
Knowing that your partner is not you. And many of us want our partner to be just like us.
Yep.
We want them to think like us, react like us, respond like us, have the same opinion on things, but you didn't choose them because they were you. If they became you, then one of you would now be obsolete. There would be no need for the other.
That's right.
So there's obviously something that your partner's bringing to the table that adds to your life because they're different. And so really what you're talking about is accepting who your partner is.
More so than that. Like, yes, accepting who your partner is. I think that we do that. Like as couples, we do that. But I think we devalue certain aspects of our partner. So we'll just accept that he's always in a rush. He ain't got 5 minutes to sit down. He looks at this, he looks at that. Like you're devaluing it and not looking at the good qualities in the rush. Is the person getting it done? Like, what are they rushing to? So not that there doesn't need to be a balance in it, but I think that we not only need to acknowledge the difference between us, but we also need to stop devaluing it and find ways to honor it.
Teacher 1130 just joined. She waves. Also, Miss Royalty 143 says, this is good. This is good. We also have our brother Russ. Good morning, fam. Good morning to you. Good to see you. Yes, it's very true. It's we devalue our partners. And then, a part of really accepting who your partner is understanding that they're not perfect and that they have flaws. Because guess what? You have flaws.
Yeah.
And if you can accept the fact that your partner is not perfect, it helps you to properly manage your expectations. I think we have so many unrealistic, unspoken expectations that we project on our partner, and we're creating our own frustration and our own impatience. And because our partner doesn't live up to our idea, our concept, what we think is right, that's what causes the breakdown in relationships. And so West says we need to celebrate the differences and not tolerate the differences. There's nothing worse than being somewhere where you're just tolerated but not celebrated. People want to be celebrated, and it's important that you take the time to edify your partner, to acknowledge what makes them uniquely who they are and how they add to your life. Because to me, when you're in a relationship where you have that level of honor and respect, it really takes that relationship to the next level. Absolutely. I think so many people are so frustrated by what their partner has done. All they do is spit venom. They spew evil. Yeah. What they're doing is they're tearing their partner down instead of building their partner up. And that creates a horrible situation. Let's talk about the next thing. Communicate. Listen, if there's something that you're struggling with, there's a problem that you have, you're in a situation that you can't seem to manage or process, communicate with your partner. Do you know how many couples, you may know because you may be this couple, you have your internal dialogue. You're having conversations with your girlfriend. You're having conversations with your family members. You're having conversations with coworkers and people at the gym, but you're not having a conversation with your spouse. And oftentimes your spouse is the last to know about what your true grievance is.
This is because they're avoiding. Like a lot of us we don't want to talk to each other anymore. We're so frustrated. We don't want to talk to each other. So we're spending all of our time and our energy getting our fulfillment through other people and not communicating with one another. So that's why there's that disconnect. That's why you're lacking patience. That's why you don't have time to acknowledge their greatness, because you don't have time for them at all. Communication is absolutely key.
Kathy says, I am learning to do this with my husband. Finally, thanks to you guiding us. We're glad to be able to guide you. Janice says, good morning.
Hey, Janice.
So obviously this is a topic that's resonating because people have lost their patience. But let me tell you something. It was Mahatma Gandhi who said, to lose patience is to lose the battle. Yeah. And so it's one of the most important ingredients that you need in your relationship. And it really allows you to really show your level of love and compassion for your partner.
And here's the easy way that you could do it. We talk about this all the time. We have the work day and we have the play day. If you guys are not finding a way to come together and find that patience, find a way to acknowledge one another, find time to communicate, set up a work and play day. It actually forces you to come together to do something. At the very least, it forces you to communicate and then get to know each other a little bit better with some of the practices that we give you. So start to implement that. Figure out which day of the week you're going to have your work day, which means you're going to work in your marriage or on your marriage. You're going to read books together. You're going to work out some emotional questions and figure out what you like and don't like. And then your play days when you're going to actually go out and have a date. So begin to put those days on your calendar and you'll see some of these gaps closing.
And for those who have never really heard about this workday play day, it's to me fundamental for every relationship. Mm-hmm. A lot of times you can get stuck in your situation. Like, how do we get out of this? How are we going to turn this thing around? Well, it's creating sacred space in your relationship. Yes. With a busy day, with 168 hours in a week where you're dealing with work, you're dealing with kids, you're dealing with ministry, you're dealing with everything else. Where have you found time to come together with your partner, to have a conversation, to connect, to do anything? So your work day is what you're spending a minimum of 1 hour a day. 1 hour a week on a specific day. And you're saying this is the day where let's read the word. Let's do some type of couples devotional. Let's watch one of these couple academy videos and then talk about it. Let's read The Audacity of Marriage, a chapter from it, and talk about it. Let's identify an issue that we're struggling with in our relationship. And I was just saying this to someone yesterday. I said, listen, we used to be in real estate. And I remember when we would buy properties, one of the techniques that we were taught is whoever you're sitting down with, ask them if you can make an upfront agreement that, hey, before we leave this table, we're making an upfront agreement that we're going to come away with the decision. Whether we choose to invest or whether we don't, can we agree that before we leave this table, we're both clear on what the next steps were? Sure, no problem. And that really helped us to really cut the fat, not waste time, and zone in on properties. And we actually knew who was serious and who wasn't. And so it's almost like the same thing in your relationship. You're coming together in your meeting, not engaging in intellectual masturbation where you're just talking for the sake of talking, but the goal is to come up with a resolution. So can we make an upfront agreement that during this workday, we're going to resolve this particular issue or come close to it as best we can? Sure, let's do it. Now you're maximizing your time. You're intentional. You're getting something done because you made that agreement. So your workday allows you to do that. So if you don't have a workday, implement it. It can change your marriage.
Awesome. We got a couple comments in here. Kiara says, so true. I will have a whole conversation in my head, then say a total of 5 words in the actual conversation. The patience and communications is so not there. Yeah, and that's what we got to begin to work on. Following you helps me daily, Cindy from LA says. Thank you, Cindy. Janice says, what do you do when you celebrate your spouse, but because of their past and childhood, they receive it as false and fights against you?
That's a deep issue, which will require, to me, that's a whole nother topic we can get into. But yeah, a lot of people do come in with insecurities, doubts, fears. They're still believing the voice which screams loud that they heard from childhood, from a parent, from a situation that happened. And so it's helped to form their identity, and then they struggle with it. And so there's a phenomenal book called Psycho-Cybernetics, which talks about how the level of success you have in your life is predicated upon your self-image, and how to begin to change your self-image so you get a different outcome. So check that book out. I think that would be a great book. Yeah. But these are all the things we're talking about regarding patience.
And regarding patience, Kiara, that part, what you said about just having the conversation in your head, because maybe it's so much easier for you, and we can perceive actually having patience with our spouse as draining. We're so drained by the notion or the thought of having this conversation. And that's why we talk about these work days and play days, because it actually forces you to deal with these little issues. And once you resolve those little issues, then it won't be so draining to just have a basic conversation about stuff. Sometimes we don't know what we're going to get when we come to our spouse. We don't know if we're going to get into an argument just talking about a cup of coffee or what. So some of these things can be worked out during your work days.
Yes. Really quickly, Janice says, what was the name of that book? It's called Psycho-Cybernetics. You can go on Amazon and order it today. Probably you can get the Audible. It'll probably get to you a lot quicker than trying to wait for the mail in this pandemic. But Psycho-Cybernetics, great book that talks about the power of self-image. But we're talking about patience. And so write down a list of all the things that you can identify yourself being impatient, with your partner. Like, write down all the things that just get on your nerves and get up under your skin and infuriate you and make you mad. Write the list down so that you can become self-aware of what those things are, and then begin to focus on each one at a time. Okay, God, how can you help me deal with this struggle that I'm having with my spouse as it comes to this particular thing? Help me, give me guidance. One of the things we didn't mention, which is the most important thing, is the power of prayer and connecting to your God. Sometimes it takes supernatural intervention to give you something that you don't currently have. And here's the great point, and we're going to wind this up. Some people have patience because it's just a part of their personality. It's just a part of their makeup. Other people need supernatural power from God to experience patience. As we go through these love attributes, love is patient, love is kind, love is this, love is that. Some people struggle with things, other people flow with things. The things that you flow with, boom. The things that you struggle with, you're going to need God. And all of these are God's expressions and God's fundamental aspects of love. And when you have the love of God in you, you're able to then love your partner because of who's inside of you. So if you're empty and don't have that relationship with your Father, it's time to get reconnected, because when that happens, it changes the trajectory of your relationship. So guys, we appreciate you. Hope you got something out of this. Tune in tomorrow as we go into the next aspect of love.